Hello and welcome to the next episode of my channel where I'll be taking up a lesson from class 12th. The name of the lesson is Memories of Childhood. This chapter is basically about two girl children who faced discrimination at different places, and that discrimination has left a bitter impact on their lives. Childhood, as we say, is the golden period of one's life, but these things which happened with them in their childhood was not good. So let's take up the first story. In this part we will be doing up the story of one of the girls. The name of the girl was Zitkala. Now Zitkala was a Native American, and let us see what discrimination she faced when she was in school. In the first day of the school, that was the first day of her school, and it was very, very cold. There was snow all around. As the sound of the large metallic bell was heard, she understood that it was time for breakfast. And then she could hear noise made by the shoes and a lot of murmuring, but she could not understand what people were talking in, because they were talking in English and Zitkala did not know English. So two sounds she heard. First, the bell, which announced that it was time for breakfast, and second sound was made by the shoes of the girls walking in a line to the breakfast room. On her way to the dining room, while standing in a line of girls, the narrator could not help but notice some of the other Indian girls. These girls were wearing dresses which were very, very tightly fitting, and the stiff shoes, they were wearing stiff shoes, and their hair had been shingled. That means their hair had been cut. The narrator felt ashamed because she also felt that she was not modestly dressed. She was not dressed up properly. As they had taken away her blanket, she could not bring her blanket with her. However, it was the group of these girls who wore tight-fitting clothes that seemed immodest to the narrator. In front of these girls, the narrator was at least dressed properly. Once in the dining room, the narrator heard the sound of a small bell. At this moment, each of the pupils pulled out a chair from under the table. So you can understand, they are going according to the bell. First bell means you have to go down to the dining room. Second bell, now they have pulled the chair. Okay, and they are about to sit. Thinking that they could sit now, the narrator quickly slipped into hers. But what did she see? She saw that all the pupils were still standing, and the narrator started to rise. However, after this, again there was a bell, second bell, and this was when the people sat down. So narrator was feeling a little suffocated. She was not free. They had to move according to the bell. First bell, come to the dining room. Second bell, pull the chair. Third bell, then you have to sit. A man's voice was heard muttering something at one end of the hall, and the narrator's eyes wandered to look for the man. She noticed that the other pupils were sitting with their head down. What happened? This girl, she heard some man's voice. So she started looking for this man. Who is this man talking? But then she was the only one looking here and there. All the others had their head bowed down. As she looked around narrator's eyes, what did she see? She met a pale-faced woman who had a very, very strict countenance, who had a very strict face. The man who was talking now stopped, and then there was the third short bell, which was an indication that they could eat. Once again, a long bell, that means breakfast time. Then first short bell, you have to pull the chair. Second short bell, you can sit. Third short bell, you can start eating. Overwhelmed by eating by formula and her hopeless situation, the narrator burst into tears. She was not at all happy living in this strict regimentation, rules and regulation. As the day progressed, narrator's friend Judwin, who knew few words of English, warned the narrator that in the morning she had overheard the pale-faced woman talk about the cutting of hair, her and other Indian girls' long hair. The narrator was very distraught because she remembered her mother used to say that only warriors who were captured by enemies, mourners, and cowards wore shingled or short hair. Judwin and most of the other girls were willing to submit. They thought they cannot do anything. But the narrator rebelled. She said she will first fight. What does it mean? She knew that eventually she will lose. It was a losing battle. But she was first going to fight. She was not going to give up. As the moment of cutting of long hair neared, the narrator, unnoticed by everyone, fled the scene. Trying not to make any noise, she moved slowly and quietly up the stairs looking for a place to hide. She walked into a large room with beds. The room was quite dark and a perfect place for the narrator to hide. She crawled under bed in the corner, farthest from the door. However, soon she heard footsteps and loud voice in the hall calling out her name. Even though the narrator did all that she could not to get caught, eventually the pale-faced woman found her and dragged her out and carried her downstairs. She resisted. She fought with all her might, kicking and scratching and moving her head. But they tied her to a chair. They tied Zitkala to a chair. Still she kept on shaking her head. But then she felt the cold scissors against her neck as they cut her hair. The narrator says in the end that she had faced many indignities since she was taken from her mother. When her hair was cut, she needed her mother to comfort her, but no one came. The day her long hair was cut, the narrator had lost her spirit. So this story you can see is, what kind of discrimination she had to suffer, what kind of harsh discipline she had to suffer when she was in her बोर्डिंग स्कूल. सो इस कहानी में हम एक ऐसी लड़की के बारे में पढ़ते हैं जो एक नेटिव अमेरिकन है. उसका नाम जितकाला सा है और उसके स्कूल के पहले दिन उसे ये बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगता है कि उस स्कूल में हर चीज रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन के हिसाब से चलती है. बेल बजे तो नीचे आओ, बेल बजे तो चेयर पुल करो, बेल बजे तो बैठ जाओ, बेल बजे तो खाने बैठो. उसे ये बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं आ रहा है और तब उसे किसी आदमी के बोलने की आवाज आती है तो वो इधर उधर देखती है. तब तक उसकी नजर एक ऐसी औरत से मिलती है जो बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट थी. वो खाना शुरू करती है. थोड़ी देर बाद उसकी दोस्त ने उसे बताता है कि वो उसने सुबह उसी औरत को ये बोलते हुए सुना है कि आज वो सारी लड़कियों का बाल काट देंगे. ये सुनकर जितकाला बहुत घबरा जाती है, बहुत गुस्से में आ जाती है क्योंकि उसे उसकी माँ की बात याद आती है कि जो लोग किसी को खो चुके हैं, मोर्नर्स या जो युद्ध में हार चुके हैं, बस उनको ही वही बाल छोटे रखते हैं. तो वो किसी दूर अंधेरे रूम में छुप जाती है मगर वो अंत में पकड़ी जाती है. लेकिन लास्ट तक वो फाइट करती रहती है कि उसका बाल ना कटे, बट बाल अंत में कट जाता है और जब उसका बाल कटता है उसे लगता है कि वो अपना स्पिरिट खो चुकी है. So I hope you have understood the lesson. Please like the video and if there's a doubt, let me know. The second story about Bama I'll be taking up in the next unit, next part. Thank you.